Awesome. All right, can we get a motion to approve the agenda for today?
And we're going to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
We have one new business item, but it looks like it's a meaty one. So I'll turn it over to you to walk us through this.
Okay, so in your packet, you have what's called the integrated application. And the integrated application is being required from ODE, from every district, every school district across the state. The purpose of the integrated application is to engage the community in an authentic needs assessment. The district presents student achievement data as reported by the ODE, the Oregon Department of Education, 5 common metrics for student growth, and the Oregon Standards Assessment System. Now, the districts are to present this information to the community for review and then gather feedback and input to develop a strategic plan to increase student achievement and success. The district team then develops a plan and budget for the SIA, Student Investment Account, and the High School Success Grant, with targeted supports and interventions for our high need students from historically disadvantaged backgrounds. So that's the purpose of the integrated application. This presentation will explain the integrated application criteria and the Creswell School District's approach to community engagement and the development of a strategic plan to increase student achievement for identified low-performing student groups and provide equitable education outcomes for all CSD students. So it's twofold. We're looking at those students that were low performing from historically disadvantaged groups, and then what's best for all kids. At the end of the presentation, I'll ask the board for approval for the CSD integrated application. The application must be submitted to ODE by March 31. So we've downloaded the application, and Chanel and Amy, they're critical. Tons of hours gone into this application. But it was a full team effort to begin with, from the strategic planning process on in, and then all of the administrative team to process that information, put it in the plan form, and then Amy and Chanel to upload all that information into that application, which is absolutely horrendous. Anyway, I'm going to try and boil it down for you so that it isn't really, I mean, we've got all the information in there. You're welcome to read it if you haven't already. But let's take a look at the presentation. If you have any questions, we'll go on from there. So the purpose of the presentation is to share information about 6 programs and common goals from the state, to explain how the plan was developed, to share what was prioritized in the plan given the range of inputs, to explain how the state measures success, to hear additional feedback on the plan now that it has been developed, additional feedback from you and others, and to seek board approval. So the 6 programs right here, these are the state programs for grants. And these programs, the integrated application is required for all 6 programs. And you can see the common elements across all programs there in that middle section. And right in the middle, focus on students who have been historically marginalized in the education system. So that would be the bulk of the purpose of this entire integrated application. Pointed right in there. And then you see the common goals that they're looking for, that we also are looking for and have been. Well-rounded education, equity advance, engaged community, and strengthen systems and capacity. So We look at the summary of the program purposes and what high school success is, system to improve graduation rates and college and career readiness. That's one grant, one of the two major grants that are involved in this integrated application. The student investment account, which is the greater grant amount to meet students' needs, mental health, behavioral needs, and increase academic achievement, reduce disparities in student focal groups. So knowing who your focal groups are that are underperforming is our job to figure that out. But that's what it's calling for there in the SIA. That's what the SIA supports. Continuous improvement planning. You've been hearing about that from me anyway since 2019. And we prepare a comprehensive continuous improvement plan backed by a strategic planning process. Career and technical education, that's more money coming into CTE there. It's a smaller grant, but nevertheless, it's involved in this six-pronged system. Early indicator intervention, probably the smallest grant there is the intervention one. And as you may have heard in the governor's messages, she's focused on early intervention. She wants money going there. And then everyday matters. So that's a quick overview of those six, well, definitions and overview of those things. So the required planning process, this is the criteria that OBE requires to prepare your integrated application. So use of an equity lens. We adopted an equity lens for Creswell School District in the fall, early fall. We had one in 2019-20, but we beat that and adopted a different one. And we used that. We actually presented that to our design team during the strategic planning process, and we used it in our meetings here. And looking at equity across all of our student groups. Community engagement with us is a thorough engagement process, and we'll see some of those. They're all noted in the application, but we have by far the most extensive community engagement process of any district, and it's been pointed out to us. Tribal consultation, if it's applicable for us, it is not. Comprehensive needs assessment, and that goes along with the community engagement process. Those two come together. That's how we approach them. Consider the quality education model. We are always eyeballing the quality education model and what it is talking about. Two examples are class sizes and student to counselor ratios, student to administrator ratios. I mean, those are kind of things that are laid out in the quality education model. And student success plans. Review and use regional CTE consortia inputs. That is consistent, but we also went to a community gathering and we've been talking about that Lane County Workforce workshop that we went to. That's one of those. That was the main one for the year. Further examination of potential impact on focus students tied to planning decisions. So the decisions you'll see later on, we have made to impact student achievement and success for our focus groups are marginally, historically marginally disadvantaged groups, student groups. Development of a 4-year plan with clear outcome strategies and activities. So we have a 3 to 5 year continuous, comprehensive, continuous improvement plan. Any questions on any of those requirements? We checked the boxes off, or check and check on most of those boxes. A lot of checks. Okay, so our strategic plan, this is the approach that we took to it. And so we began with a bigger picture in mind, and with a formal strategic planning process. We analyzed disaggregated student achievement data and processed that through the board, processed it through the design team, sent it out to parents and surveys. I mean, we have been all over that piece. Right here are the 5 metrics for this state. So, and It's not by coincidence that those are the same metrics on your board goals. So when I'm aligning my goals to your goals on student achievement, these are the metrics that measure how we do it on those 5 criteria. We conducted a comprehensive community needs assessment focused on student achievement trends. Our surveys, forums, listening sessions, the whole 9 yards, we went all out on it to get community feedback, not only on how we're doing with student achievement, but how we're doing as a district and looking at our community values and beliefs. And lastly, we researched effective best practices to align proven strategies for our district achievement gaps. So when we're looking at what we're going to do to improve, we look for the highest leverage strategies that we can fully do it with the most proven practices that there are out there in education. Our outcome of our strategic plan. So we identified specific targets for focal groups, and you'll see those coming up. But when we look at our disadvantaged groups within our student demographics, we're analyzing the data on how they're doing. And then we select a group that we think we need to, well, not that we think, that the data demonstrates we need to focus on and make some improvements. And then we dive deeper into the data to determine what it is exactly that we are focused on as a strategy. We developed strategic plan themes for student success that came right out of the community and the needs assessment. We developed a comprehensive strategic action plan with themes to respond to the achievement gaps and disparities needs in our community vision. An integrated comprehensive strategic improvement plan for continuous district improvements for the next 5 years. So what our goal was here in developing this strategic plan or continuous improvement plan was to take our entire system up another level from the last continuous improvement plan. Always looking to the north side. So our response to data, you can boil it down in many different ways, and when we look at some of our subgroups within our student demographics, I mean, some of them are doing really well, and it really is. When we look at our data, some of our minority student groups, we are far exceeding any other district measurement. They are in achievement. When we look at our Hispanic Latino group and how they're performing and where their graduation rates are, extremely high. When we look at our students who are experiencing poverty, it's not as high. It's high, but it's not keeping up with the peer group as a whole. So when we look at all those indicators, the 5 metrics for the state, and we start looking at the data and we disaggregate it. When we look at our students experiencing poverty, and that is 44% of our student body, and then we look at the makeup of that 44%, our poverty, or students in poverty, and this is pretty common, crosses over all student demographics, all of them. It is the one group that doesn't discriminate. It takes all. And so it's also our largest group of historically disadvantaged students. So we selected that. When we make improvements in that group, we make improvements across the board. So the district integrated application and SIP plans include initiatives focused on specific targets and strategies to address student achievement gaps and disparities. And we're comparing them against the peer group as a whole. Our major areas of improvement will be focused on 3rd grade literacy. Could you back up one slide, please? When we look at 3rd grade literacy there, some things to know about that when we look into our performance and what's happening with our trends. So we could see that at the third grade level in 18-19, that's our last normal year of school before the 21-22 school year. And we performed lower than that 18-19 year. Okay, well, but we also performed lower than the state average. So we've got some work to do, but our third grade students were out of school first and second grade. Reading is hard to do at home when you're online. So that to me would explain some of the disparity or the decline from 2018-19 to 2021-22. But the other piece of it that I'm aware of is the fact that we're below the state average and not in very many areas or categories in our student achievement. But in this one we are, and that's a metrics indicator. So we have work to do there. That's why we selected that as our goal in one of our focal groups, and then along with our student poverty in all areas. That is our lowest performing group, students in poverty, in all 5 metrics. So our community needs assessment. Go ahead. So this is what we heard from our community. We just looked at the data, the demographics, and what we're focusing on from our data review. And also from feedback that we received from the community on student performance data. Now we're shifting into the needs assessment on what our community values, what they think we can do better. So in life prepared and career pathways, that's one theme that's one of the 5 themes that were selected by the design team. Based on the feedback that we received from the needs assessment, from the surveys, the community forums, and all of that was processed through the strategic planning design team. These are the suggestions that came up with meets student needs, the input that we got from the community on making some improvements in those areas. They feel we can do better. Overall wellness, our third theme, and looking at how we can address our students' nutritional needs, how we can address their mental health needs, their medical needs, help support them financially, or with basic needs, state-of-the-art facilities. So when we're looking, we got feedback about the condition of our facilities. I'll go back one slide. When we look at the overall wellness, number 2 on the second column, how is it possible to do homemade foods? Community connections for better fresh food, not pre-packaged, community education, nutrition. That sends us into a different research or a different vein of the food prep programs, and where we were researching to come up with scratch food. And contrary to what you might be hearing out there on the street, the superintendent didn't just say, let's go to scratch food. That idea came out of the kids and the parents from the needs assessment. And it was a grand idea. I mean, it's really, what would it take to do that? So we looked into it. Chanel really did some research in there, and as a result, we're going to be serving scratch foods right after spring break. And then back to state-of-the-art facilities. You can see what they listed there. Now, these are folks who are giving us feedback, but really have not seen our facilities improvement plan. It's based on our facilities assessment. So this is what they, which is pretty surface level compared to what we know is in the facilities improvement plan. And then student achievement and what we can do to increase our student achievement levels. This is what we've heard from the community. A lot of focus Well, of course, on literacy, but also math. So we got feedback on the data that we found out. We got feedback from the surveys on what we can do better. We really drilled down to 3 surveys in the needs assessment to get really specific on what it is we could do. And then we came up with, and after doing some research, we have our plan. And that plan is on this long sheet here so that it's more visible and easy to read and follow. But this is the result of the needs assessment, the comprehensive needs assessment, and a community-wide strategic plan process. So we have our work cut out for us for the next 5 years, for sure. We know the vision of where we need to go.
Okay, so just because we focused on curriculum last year, we're doing math this year, what does tiered curriculum mean? When I see this as number 8 under proficient readers in the green column, what does tiered mean?
So when we're looking at our readers and how our readers are performing, this came out of the design team out of IRC, and they're thinking about tiered reading and having readers like groups. You know, we don't want to go to the river groups, but you know, how we
Want to read like the by ability?
by ability, so meeting them where they're at and then taking them forward to the next level.
That sounds- Thank you. Okay.
Is the tiered reading, is that a common term that's used in our new ELA curriculum?
Yeah, and maybe to just expand on that answer, what we're looking at is. We use that term tiered. Tier 1 is supports differentiation in the gen ed classroom, so differentiation that we can provide for all students. And then as we're looking at data points, there's ongoing collaboration with teacher teams to look at, do we need to increase those interventions, those tiered supports to maybe a tier 2? And then a tier 3 would be the highest level of support. So looking at data to kind of tier that intervention, and most of it can be done in the classroom. Some of it's pulled out of the classroom. We try to maintain least restrictive, meaning we're always opportunities to push into a classroom to provide differentiation in there is the priority, but then we can tier it based on need.
And so that would also include like tag kids that when they need additional
Yes,
things to
yeah.
keep them challenged, it'd be
Absolutely.
an add on top. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, it goes both ways. So increasing opportunity, but also increasing support as well. Yeah, so good.
Thank you for that, Ann. Okay. All right.
Any other questions? Are you both ready to move on, or do you want to take a few more minutes? Good. Okay, so looking at the strategic investments and how we're focusing our dollars, our grant dollars, to have the impact on our students, so that we get what they're out for our outcome and what they're expecting that will be. So the SIA, we were at about 1.1 million in the last biennium. We're at 905,000 in this one. And that's all due to enrollment. And high school success is at 353. So, and in our early indicator, I had mentioned that would be our lowest grant, and that's at 3,381. It's a lot of narrative to put in the 3,000 that kind of failure. Anyway, so
We do
look,
want every dollar.
we do. And we like, yeah, anyway, moving to the SIA, the strategic investments for our SIA funds. So investing in CP and elective course teachers, the majority of our funds are focused on staffing. A counselor at the middle school, SEL staffing at the elementary school,
Remind me what SEL is again?
social emotional learning
Thank you.
staffing at this elementary school.
Okay.
Intervention staffing district wide. EL staffing district wide. Bed support. Community engagement and communications. And curriculum and software. So the specific activities that we want to provide is for our proficient readers to have effective communicators, and this is all coming out of our profile of the graduate. Proficient writers, fluent foundational math skills, mental health support, social emotional learning. So the combination of all the things that we're looking at, the skills and the attributes that our students need to have. And they need here. And out of high school success, dollars focused on counselor, guidance counselor, more CTE teachers, of course. Personal finance teacher, we implemented that and we're moving, that's now a requirement for graduation. CPE supplies and activities for CPE elective courses. We needed credit recovery for our kids, especially coming out of COVID. So we have a credit recovery program. We're still using, oh gosh, what is it? Salad at the high school. Providing additional mental health support, a lot in college and career planning, and in coming out with some of the characteristics kind of skill for a dependable employee and competent communicator. And you'll see those, you've seen those, some of those descriptors in the portrait of a graduate, CSD graduate vision, which is what we're getting at. We're trying to weave those all into our program and courses. Any questions on those investments? And what positions they are? Because there is staffing attached to every one of them except the class and curriculum software.
So who is the guidance counselor at the high school? Mona, it's Mona, okay. And then Lori is the counselor.
She's not, Mona's not full time though with that. She does have a couple classes she teaches as well.
And a lot of these are the activities or the investments that we did in our first SIA as well.
Right, and our dollars are still, they're SIA dollars, and we want to keep those supports in there.
Yeah.
So we do, and so, yeah, so the personal finance teacher is also Mona. She teaches in personal finance, so that's the class that she has, so it's right in line with careers, careers with her guidance. But yeah, our dollars are staying, we've stayed focused in there. We're not making any cuts on staff out of the SIA. In fact, we're trying to roll staffing out of ESSER into these other grants that we have along with our title grants. And in other creative ways too, to maintain our current level of staffing and programs.
So you've kept what you've learned from our first SIA grant that was effective, you kept it enrolled in here, and then you're making additional tweaks based upon the strategic plan work, right? That's kind of what it looks like.
That, yeah, the strategic plan work is above and beyond what's going on with these, but yeah, they all do, you know, they're all graded. What it's called, again, with the other strategies, we'll just say we're looking at the strategic plan. And in the strategic plan, it says CPE classes or CPE building. So that all fits into the high school success and what we're trying to do to expand our CPE offerings and programs. So yeah, there's a lot of things that it's all in the pathway of a vision of success. But that's a BP plan right there. This one. Any other questions, Mary?
Cause you know, I have questions, yeah, I'm afraid it's going 100 miles an hour, not at the moment,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay, so going on, our longitudinal performance growth goals. So when we're looking at the growth goals, we're looking at the 5 metrics by the state. That they're right there, and those are also on your board goals. So 3rd grade reading, 9th grade on track, regular attendance rates. You've seen the data on this all year. I brought it to you, we talked about it. We focus on that, on how we can improve those. And then we have several strategies for each one of those metrics. Next slide. Okay, so here's where we are. So what we did here on the four-year graduation, all the metrics. When you see the baseline data, we took the last year of regular school, which was 18-19. We took the full year, 21-22, that we've come out of after COVID. We put those two together and we came out with an average between the two. What was it? And what happened in our last benchmark or our last progress report, which was 21-22, and we came out with our baseline data. So that baseline data was the average, and we want to improve on that over the next 5 years. So our stretch goal is in next year. We want to go from 86.6 to 88.7. And then each year we progress right on to the next 5 years where we get to 97.98. Now these stretch goals are SMART goals, so they're to be attainable, not unattainable. You know, we could say 100% on all of them, but that really isn't realistic. They're to be attainable for me. And then you look at the 5-year completion rate and what we're doing, you can see experiencing poverty is the group that we're really focused on there. And we know if we move that group up at 44% of our population, that's going to have a significant impact on our overall peer group performance. So when that 74 under 4-year graduation rate at 74.4, when we get that to 76, that bumps up the overall up above it to 88.77. And we're going to keep focusing on that group, keep moving the entire overall performance up. Same thing with 4-year completion rates. All the way across, that's the focal group. And 9th grade on track, same thing. 9th grade on track, by the way, we're doing really well. We're at the highest in the state, somewhere in the top 10%. On that, and in graduation, we're at the top 30%. So, but our freshman on track is extremely high. We're not touching us out there. Well, I wouldn't say touching us, but I mean, we're good 5 points to 8 points above one of the highest performing schools in the state. And then on third grade reading, we really have our work cut out there. And that's the future that we're looking at. If we can get them to grade level reading at third grade, then we know that they're not going to be playing catch up on that. So we're really going to be focused on those early intervention programs for literacy. And even starting before the kindergarten.
40% of baseline, does that mean 40% of kids read at grade level and
40% are at proficiency level based on the standards.
by the end of the third grade?
By the end of the third grade.
That is low for us, is it not?
We have it,
Like even before COVID?
even before.
I know our math was low, I just did not think our reading was that low, like not in my memory, so that would be just, okay, so. go into-
Well, we'll take a look more at it because I have all the data around the book.
Sure.
Evaluation later, you'll see some more of that,
Okay.
yeah. And then, regular attenders, we've been working, you've heard the principals talk about the strategies, the phone calls, going to home, all that kind of stuff, so they've been working hard at it, that is high. For a high school, for a district, when you average it out at 78. But we want to get into the 90%, that's really 90% is like. Yeah, all right, but, that's way high. But if we chip away at it and we turn the culture into school is important to be here, that's the goal. And then where we go next, so we submit the application, ODE reviews it. So far, 4 applications have been submitted in Lane County, 2 of them were returned to the district, so they were accepted. By ODE review. Then the quality, application, or what is that, what's that stand for?
Which was I was looking, I was like, what is that?
It's quality application, whatever, it's a review committee that takes a look at it, and then they either approve it or you don't, or they don't, and they send it back and say, this is what we want, so. Part of that afternoon was slipping, but
That's fine.
there's 2 reviews, and that's a committee that's looking at the data. ODE's looking at all the criteria, and that one is looking at the qualitative data, or whatever data that you submitted in the review. And that's the end of my presentation. I thought it was going to be quick. But when you look at the IA application, when you boil it down, this is what you get at. This is what, you know, if I could hand them this, this would be it would take all the fluff out of the narrative and we just see what we've done. Which is in the IA. Anyway.
And you need this application approved by us, right?
You-
Okay. So we've got, anybody that's got questions, now would be the time. We can give you a minute if you need to look through anything more. Otherwise, if somebody's ready, we'll take a motion.
I move to approve the integrated application.
I second.
Great.
I think I'll be together. Yeah, I second.
Any questions about that? Mike, you good?
Yeah.
Do you need any more time?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, all right, all in favor, raise your hand. Fantastic, thanks for doing this.
We'll give a round of applause for these.
Thank you for wanting to get all that in. I know sometimes we wish we had somebody to shoot like that, something that needs to be done. I don't think Joel would appreciate that.
Look at the bag though.
Okay, that is it for our regular business items. So we're gonna move into executive session. I have a statement to read about our executive session. The board will now meet in executive session per ORS 192.66 2I to review and evaluate the employment related performance of the superintendent. Representatives of the news media shall be allowed to attend the executive session. Also invited to attend the executive session are Mike Johnson, our superintendent, and Marilyn Kazan, our board secretary. All members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state that the general subject of the session as previously announced. Cameras, tape recorders, and other recording devices shall not be used during the executive session. No decision will be made in executive session, and at the end of our executive session, we will adjourn. We won't go back into regular session. So you can close our meeting, Joel. Thank you.